All right. Hello, everybody. We're back. I forgot to change the thumbnail, but now we're all good. All right. Let me share the link with everybody. Did I change the thumbnail? Yes, I did. Good job, Misha. All right. Do announcements. Everyone, we are live. Hey, Valeria. People start popping up in the chat. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. How's everybody doing? Heyo, heyo. Julie's on the mobile at the moment. What are you viewing the stream in the jacuzzi or something? Yeah, guys, we are doing a new strategy. Spam in the chat as much as possible. Today's spam is gonna be Vikings will take over the YouTube. Pillage the village. So if you just copy paste this and just spam it for the first 15 minutes of the stream, that would be great, because we're trying to something new on the live stream. So yeah, usually if you guys are active in the live chat box, usually the stream is recommended to more people. So if we want to recruit more Vikings, you know, we're gonna do it with this. Maybe it will work, maybe not, we'll see. But you know, YouTube hates us, so if we need to fight dirty, we will fight dirty. Yeah, we're gonna wait for maybe one more minute. Yeah, the Viking chant is in the chat. Oh yeah, if anyone wants to come up with their own chant, you're more than welcome to. But this is great. Eat my Valhalla shorts. Marco, yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, you don't have to do the same one, but you can come up with your own ones. Just have fun with it. Right, we're gonna wait for maybe one more minute, and we'll see what's gonna happen. Seyyar is our guest speaker today. He's hiding and giggling in the background. You cannot see him, but I can see his beautiful face and a magnificent beard. Yeah, we're gonna wait for one more minute because we had to restart the stream, and I want to get all the Vikings in the chat, so they don't miss it. Oh, people are chanting your name, Seyyar. Seyyar, Seyyar. I think your friends are in the chat. Seyyar has his fists in the air, but you can't see it yet. All right, I think we're gonna start. Welcome everybody to lecture number 14. Today we have a great guest, a really good friend of mine. I didn't meet him too long ago, but you know, over this past year, I think it's been like 6 or 8 months, we became really good friends. Seyyar is an amazing concept designer. The main reason why I invited him here is because, you know, some people have the fire and some don't, and Seyyar has the fire. And every time I usually hang out with him in voice chat, and whatever he designs, it's super awesome. And you know, I think you're gonna benefit from listening to him. He's gonna go over his design process, how he thinks about concept art, and then he's gonna show a little collaboration that we did with him. We're gonna show you another storyboard today. So if you're ready for more sound designs and you're ready for more animation stuff, it's gonna be awesome. And then we're gonna talk about the process, how we designed a weaponized dog with Seyyar. What were the iterations? What did I accept as a concept, why I didn't, and why? And Seyyar is going to say how he approached designing this thing from basically a concept artist perspective. I'm going to be in the role of an art director, and he is in the role of a concept artist. So without further ado, one and only, Seyyar Tedorov. Now everyone can see your face. Say hi.
What's up, guys? Like
Woo!
I'm kind of tired, so yeah, I might not be able to show all the excitement, but like bubbling inside, bubbling. So yeah, today I'm just gonna go over some of the inspirations that I had, where you know, because my every time I design or illustrate something, it's always uh, that awe factor that I got as watching movies like Misha knows, with Treasure Planet, Atlantis, all those beautiful underrated movies. The the Iron Giant, as you guys talked about, we all watched the documentary, I believe. But yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to? I'm new to this.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Sorry, you lagged out a little bit. Now you're fine. Now you're fine.
oh, okay. Is everything good now?
Yeah, everything's good now. Everyone knows CR because CR drops those lit photo references in our Discord channel, usually. He is the
Photo
dude.
go.
Yeah, CR is the photo reference god. I have no idea where he gets them, but every time I go into the into the photo ref Discord channel, I'm like, dude, where do you get them? You know?
It's I feel like my Pinterest knows me a little too intimately. so, so it's just like, here's something that doesn't match our algorithm. Would you like to see it?
This
I was
super
like, for
weird
sure.
fish that exploded at the
Yeah,
bottom of the
fish
sea.
fish with runner legs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude. Like
uh,
your work with references and how you connect real world creature design. Like talk a little bit about that because the thing is, a lot of concept artists have their research part and it's really important in their designs, but you usually take it to the next level. Usually with your creature designs. Um, yeah, how do you do it, dude? Spill the
uh,
beans.
for me, it's I approached it how I approached art, which was always learn realism, right? But then realism is kind of like the whole, orange, and then you kind of peel away the boring parts, and then you get like the delicious sweet spot. At least
Mm.
that's hope that I'm conveying. Um, it's with concepts. I'll talk about it more when I'm
Mm-hmm.
presenting the dog. Uh, it was, kind of like the blue sky stage because sometimes the director maybe wants to see something else. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of give them a couple of designs, a couple of reiterations. Um, and with photo references, I always try, like, again, my references, I gather them whenever they give me that wow feeling, like, like that the generic crowd in the background, they say wow all at once. So it's like all of my brain cells, as soon as they say wow, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get that, share it with friends. I hope they extract same things or even more than what I extracted from the image. And it's always like function. Sometimes there's form over function with like stylized, but uh, I love it when I could demonstrate a function with a design without having to speak about it. Like when you look at a, I don't know, a xenomorph, and you look at its mouth, you're like, that thing is gonna pop out of its mouth for sure. And then, like, the head also kind of like, how do I say, it amplifies it, like the design. So that's pretty much how I take it to approaches. I gotta, it has to give me the wow factor. Otherwise, if it's boring to me, it's most likely not going to convey in the design.
So is that your like first step? It's like usually you get excited about something in the in the reference stage, and then you dive deeper, and it's like you need to get yourself excited first to actually commit to designing anything concept arting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not a chore for me to be able to commit or like get that factor, because um, I treat client work and my work almost on the same level. Obviously, you gotta get that special child privileges to your personal work. But when I'm doing, like, for example, the work I did with you, I really was in there. Like, you saw some of the outlandish sketches I had on there, and like, okay, kind of back, dial it back. But the great thing is now we have stuff on the back burner for future cases. And again, hopefully, I'll talk elaborate more on that when we get to that part.
Yeah. For context, guys, me and Seyyar were collaborated on a weaponized dog design for my Lumber Saga animatic. We're gonna dive it a little bit later. And for now, CR just gonna dive in probably into his concept art process. You know, how do you start? I really like your creature designs. I think you have to pull them up. And then the bird designs are also were super awesome that you did. So if you could just show a little bit of that and maybe talk how you do stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Is my screen
Yep,
visible?
everything is perfect.
Okay, cool. Well, to me, like I said, the wow factor that I have to convey, in my opinion, is like what gave me the wow factor as a kid, which was like Sinbad, the Seventh Voyage films, like Ray Harryhausen's stop motion, beautiful, beautiful creatures, and like he himself did like uh, sketches and concepts. Um, he was like a the handyman of the studio, um, and obviously I learned my design sense, or my palette comes from, primarily, I'd say, like Atlantis, like all this beautiful underrated work, as you know. Um, and same thing with like God of War is not underrated at all. Like, it's perfect the way it is. Especially like the old ones. Like, this is what got me into research, like God of War, like a mythology. Right, you got to research this stuff. Um, and again, function with Treasure Planet, like one of my favorite underlining functions or designs that no one or not many people understood was why the planet had growth like this. And that's because the planet itself is a giant treasure chest, and then over hundreds of years, just like particles and moss kind of grows, and it's a planet of sort. And that's a beautiful, beautiful function. And so when I'm entering my concepts, right, I like to think about that. For example, the crab that you've mentioned a couple of times, it was like, what if a crab lived in a forest, like near streams, but not necessarily in water? Kind of like frogs that, you know, live in the forest, but they like lay their eggs in little leaves, like bubbles of water in the leaf, which is crazy how, like, they don't just fall out and die. But I was like, okay, so going into this, my design process, I have to. I get the best designs when I do a drawing of the individual subject. So um, I have studied how the leaf shapes are, or the flower shape, and I did a study of the crab form, which I don't really have here. But I was like, what if this thing is like size of a cat or something, and it has natural predators, so it hides, but it's also a root eater, which is why he has like little uh, tassel-like growths underneath, so he kind of like blends in when he like burrows himself into the ground, and then just kind of like slowly munches away as like predators are walking by his eyes, and he's just like closing the lids just so they don't see his pupils. Um, and then and another one that I had was just this was in my collection. Like, one day randomly, I went into my QREF, and then I found all the uh, images that were like triggered that little, sensors, or like I could use this. And I was like, let me get two subjects that are very different, which is like a daddy long leg spider, and then just like this sprout of a tree. And then what if that thing was like this, right? It it hides away from birds by sucking in its legs, like they're kind of fluid based, and and if he wants to catch a animal, he uses his mandibles to grab onto a bark and has his legs extended. And so when like something is crawling on your hand, you're able to sense it and just like kill it or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's sticky arm. So it just like retracts and just starts like conveyor belt motion just into its mouth, and that's how it feeds and hides. And yeah, just everything else kind of like this owl. This one was kind of tricky because it was you had to get uh, the forms into a owl. But yeah, did you want to go over the storyboard yet, or did you want to?
No, dude, I'm just listening to your
Okay,
process.
yeah.
Like, I think
Okay.
everybody would like to hear more about how you are mixing two different elements of creature designs and then actually making it functional. Like, I remember seeing a lot of things on your art station, especially cloth design, and then I think you mixed a bee design with some pottery, which was
Oh
super
yeah.
amazing. Because I think not a whole lot of people can, or a whole lot of people can benefit from your approach to design, which is observing real life and real reference, and then matching it together in a compelling design, right? I think those pottery things were amazing. So
Oh, thank you, man.
I don't wanna
Sure,
rob
yeah.
people from getting more goodness from CR. Yeah. So if you can talk a little bit more about that and how you,
Okay, yeah. I
cause
just I just want to know like I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
super
dude,
informed.
dude. No, 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 no. We're here to listen more about you. So,
Uh, so okay, since you mentioned the pottery design, because I'm a generalist, but like creatures come very naturally to me. But even if I was like doing props, right? One of the prompts I give myself was this one was just cactus sprouts and then like pottery that's made out of glass. Could be just regular colored pottery that's glazed. You could kind of convey that with the material stuff, and little podlings. Kind of this can also like really like these points. Let's say if someone was trying to carry them, doesn't have handles. If you kind of see it, how would they grab it? And I was like, well, what if the corners? You're like, you kind of like lift with your legs motion. You kind of grab the vase, and then like the handles kind of like stop it from slipping, so you can kind of carry it. Vice versa, or the pottery next to it, it has like little handles where you could like kind of grab it, pick it up. And the final one, it has like a rim which you could hold it onto the rim. So maybe some functions there. Uh, then I was trying to prove myself that I could do more props, which is why like I did this whole page. And one of the I like sometimes my randomness literally comes from like my Pinterest page. Then I see two things that grab my attention right away, and I just slap them together in a sense. And this one was I found some, I don't know, vases, and then I found really sick looking wasps. And then I was like, what if these were like Egyptian wasp vases, kind of like portraying that in like these patterns. Also, like another design feature is patterns. You could convey a lot of culture in patterns, especially like pop culture. Like, you know, for example, this one looks very Greek because of the patterns. Um, and, this one's kind of like Slavic. Uh, I'm not sure, Mish, if you remember your grandma's treasure chest, like underneath a big, what was it, bed covering.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
my
yeah.
grandma had one of those. They kind of hide it until it's time to show you what it is, and it's just like a bunch of family heirlooms. And then like more of a piratish type of treasure chest here. Then I was like, I gotta do some weaponized things, and then there was like gauntlets. Um, so on this, I feel like the last one I love, but the rest kind of feel a bit much. But it still conveys like you're either the king's right hand man or you are the king wearing pretty fashion or stylized gauntlets. Um, and let's see. Oh, one of my favorite designs here was the pufferfish rhino pufferfish, which is like a rhino beetle combined with a pufferfish. And my idea was I had to study. Well, for myself, I put a task of because pufferfish, those little spikes are actual bones. They're not little soft spots. And when you're looking at their skeletons, it's actually very much like one of those uh, armors where it's like a triangle, it's kind of like interwoven to each other, and they kind of separate and come back together when they puff and go back down. So I was doing like studies of that and seeing how they would like overlay, and they kind of played with shapes. Oh, like when you go for a concept and you do a study of it, definitely after you're done, just do a bunch of that silhouette. Like, I had like a couple here. And then I did a rhino study, a rhino beetle study, and kind of figured out wingspan, how the horns are. And obviously, with Animal Kingdom, the smaller your horn is, um, the like it's a female, and if you have a big horn or the largest horn, you're like an alpha male. And that's what I kind of put into this fish designs. And at the end here, you could see there is an example of a regular one. And then when it's puffed up, it should have been bigger to convey the thing, but I had no space. And then here's a female. I just erased the horn, and like it easily became, the female of the species. Um, and let's see, I think, oh yeah, and another thing was when I was just doing my birds project, I definitely wanted everything to convey bird uh, for the bird side only. So like their house is one of those Russian Parmage eggs, or I forget what they were called, but it's kind of like an egg shape, but it's also a nest, right? But then when I was designing it, I kind of realized I need to put supports for the wings of the building. At the end, it kind of turned into like a lamp post, like, when you're walking at night, and birds really love landing out there. So now there's like a triptych in one design, and I thought that was, it fit really well. Um, but before I got to that point, I had to get my shape in order, and this was my first idea. Like, see how like crappy this is compared to like like the further down you go, like okay, add, subtract, uh, lengthen, shrink, and at the end, with help of like Doodle, Ida, and all the other friends I have on Discord. Uh, by the way, guys, your Discord friends are most likely your lifelong friends. They're always will be awesome. Um, and I also talked it over with Misha, and like I was showing him the project, and everyone was giving feedback, which is great because you never really want to do this alone. Like when you're doing personal projects, always have friends kind of guide you to a to the right direction, because sometimes you can get tunnel vision, and a lot of the things here I would have probably not gotten over. Um, and sometimes a project could lead you into a thing you never thought you were going to do. I never thought I was going to do 3D, but this project kind of forced me to, you know, have 2 weeks of hair pulling and learning how to set everything up and design this maquette, and use a couple of downloads from Sketchfab, another wonderful resource, and kind of gave me compositions. And that way, I could get to this stage quicker because, again, business wise and in this industry, you got to be quick as possible. Um, and when I was doing my birds, it was always based on hierarchy because it's the royals. They gotta display the majestic birds. So like the owl, eagle, and all those really gorgeous birds. So you had your like the pride of the group, the noble fair guy, which is the eagle here, and he has like a chest piece to simplify or symbolize his status. And with him, I was kind of playing around with a couple of chess pieces, and number one was the best, just because it was not too simple but not too complex at the same time, and it and the shape kind of conveyed his chest really well. I was like, okay, now it feels like one of those knights that walk around with like sturdy back, uh, and it gave him like little gauntlets, silver gauntlets to work with for either presentation. I'm not sure how valuable it would be in battle, but it's always the aesthetic, and it works because it doesn't pull away from the original design. One of my other favorite birds was this crow. he he is a good crow, but he also likes to steal. So kind of a dichotomy there. Uh, he lost his eye during one of the stealing sessions when he was younger. So now it's a moonstone. You know, fake eye. Whenever he coughs, he like punches himself in the chest, and like his eye kind of falls out. So he has to like stick it back in, like the guy from Pirates in the Caribbean. And yeah, like here's the reference board. Just like this is a crow. This face, man. It's like whenever you catch him, they're like, you know, have that soundtrack in the back, like dun dun dun. Um, and also like finding jewelry that's not too fancy because it's a crow, but you also wanted to uh, give it the same vibe. So like a lot of this jewelry actually gives me like a gothic vibe, and like bird. It's a dark bird, so it's always like he'd listen to some dorime but metal version or something. You got the owl, which is the smart owl. You got to give him some kind of glasses. Got to make him look like he graduated from Harvard. Thus, like this collar that he's wearing. He also has little cufflings on each hand, and he loves those cufflings. He won't out exit without them. Um, then you have what I would call I don't know if it's the proper word, but necessary minus, which is this is a vulture. Vultures are known for eating decay, and everyone's kind of like, oh, it's a vulture, but their role in nature is very, very much needed, which is preventing disease. So this is what the group like. He'll take care of things for you, but he's weird about it, which is pretty tropey, but it works. And sometimes you just got to go with the trope. And one of the things he has is like this, like, to show that his like symbolizes kind of like death, plagueish thing, is that he has bone uh, on his neck, which is actually a straw. So like when he's eating, like he sticks his bone into a carcass he's eating. He's like just like sucks out all the marrow. It's like, oh, this is delicious. And like eh, he doesn't. The funny thing is because he eats decaying things. He doesn't. He hates maggots. So here you can see like, ew, maggots, gross. I'm not gonna touch this, but he kind of has to do his job, type of thing. Um, Again, uh, a good point by my friend Augustine, aka Doodle. He was like, their beaks and talons are not strong enough like uh, eagles, but so that's why they wait for lions to attack the food first, and then they go in for the scraps. But here he just like uses his bone as a multi-purpose tool, and just kind of like a Swiss Army bone. Um, this was one of my favorite. Actually, a lot of people kind of like this one from my friends. They really liked the backstory as well, which is a character that doesn't know his potential and tries to be like someone else. But the thing is, they're like no one else can swim. He was the only one that could go underwater. But because the owl was like, you know what, you do a lot of good, so I'm gonna build you a pair of wings. So now he could fly and dive underwater. But maybe like later on the story, he's like, you know what, I don't need these things, and just drops them. And here, I really wanted to show that blueprint style of design. So like kind of clear how it works, like all these mechanics. One gear turns this way, which causes the other one to turn the other way, and it's a great way to like make extensions. Uh, and they also needed some kind of guards, just like simple guards, and they're hawks or falcons with sorted tips. And I always imagined them to be like this Akira Kurosawa type of samurai, like they dash and like the characters behind fall. Um, and their helmets, they always looked like gladiator helmets, which is why I kind of gave them that. It also kind of makes sense because there's no glass or whatnot, but they still need visibility and they're like sensitive to too much sun exposure. Uh, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, well, actually, I got one more thing. I have the opponents, the antagonist to the protagonist, and they're like these rats that because they want to, and the birds got to stop them. And there's this whole hero mission going back and forth. And with these, I worked on for maybe a month and a half or something. And I also had a lot of input on these as well. And everyone just gave solid information, especially like when it came to how much did it make sense to the audience, is what I would ask them. And they'd really guide me to the right way. And this was probably the latest one, which is the centipede rat. And uh, my favorite comments were, "This is nightmare fuel," and that is always my goal. I always want to make it uneasy with like the uneasy creatures, which means I did my job. Um, yeah, I think that's enough ranting for for my side, Misha. If
No,
you wanna,
dude, go for another 2 hours. Those are amazing.
uh,
Looking at those rat dudes, though, I have one because I love how you basically combine, different elements into one thing. Man, this is spooky. But I always kind of wonder who the hell creates those abominations because, let's say in your bird tribe, you know, you have the guy who basically cleans up and who maybe is the commander, and then you have all kinds of roles, and those guys are just the bad guys. I feel like and the main thing that I like about your design process, you always think about the story, what's behind it, what's the motivation of the guy, who the character is, and how the design is going to reflect that. And with the rat designs, like, and that's the cool thing about your work. You leave the audience wanting more. It's like, how the hell did this come into life? With rat people, I almost kind of like want to know who is the mad scientist who does that. And because if your designs spark associative thinking, you want more, that means it's a good design and a good story. I always feel, and this is just an idea out there because we're just showing our collaboration and stuff. I almost feel like in the rat tribe, you need like a really abandoned bird who wants revenge on his own kind. So what he does, he creates those abominations to have revenge on them,
you actually hit the nail right on the head.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, when I was preparing for the rats, I was like, I need a character that's there's like a vengeance plot or something like that. As much as the rats are rats, like their natural thing is they steal things, they burrow into food supplies and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I will show you an image that actually inspired this. 1 second. So I was thinking that it was a overthrow thing, right?
Yeah.
For example, this character, he was kind of getting out of line, and what the rest of the birds did was, hey, you gotta go because this is unacceptable. Like how in the movies, like the general or something will kind of kill innocents or whatever, and then like some soldiers start revolting, like, no, I will not have any of this. So this was the image that got me. I was like, what if it's a heartbeat eagle and he's just like,
Yeah.
really messed up looking because like this is closed. Like they have like those.
Close eyelids.
Yeah, it's not like the eyelid, but it's like that wind stuff or
It's
whatever.
kind
I
of
just
a windshield viper for bird's eyes.
the windshield wipers. Yes. So I was just imagining him just like maybe what he has extra parts he attached to. Maybe I haven't got to him yet, but he is like you know in a video game you encounter the bad guys and then you encounter the head of the bad not the head of the bad guys but like the right hand man and he's like you thought I was behind this, it's actually Al Capone or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is like the Al Capone of their thing and he's just like this is what you get for kicking me out of my room because like all those birds have their own room. uh, and it could be it could be decided who gets to live in the castle and be like a representative of a certain thing by proving either their strength or like
Whoops. See, our
of
froze. Now you're back.
okay good it's like here's the future of what I see in 10 years and how I could improve it, right? Like it's kind of like a democratic thing, or it could be a battle to the death or until they yield.
Yeah.
So it could be something like that, but definitely, like I like the fact that you unraveled it, and I was like, man, I gotta bring it in now, which is like the harpy eagle. I haven't designed them yet.
Yeah.
This was the inspiration because like of the zombified eyes looking thing. Um, yeah, man, I'm so glad you got that. Not that I was just going nowhere with this.
No, 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 dude. It's really important because you guys who are listening right now, it just brings the importance of what because the design aspect of your creatures or anything, honestly, again, it has to be based in real world. How CR basically masterfully, mixes, inspiration and from reference of real natural world, which is realistic in his own sometimes twisted way, but at the same time, the designs have to not replicate but represent what's going, like, just from listening to CR, 90% is the background thoughts, right? CR, right? It's
Yeah,
it's the story, it's how did it all came, into real world. And then he just does the designing aspect, which is probably like 10% from all of the, thought process and the brainstorming. So for me, like, I don't do a lot of designing. That's why, for example, CR works with me on my animation project, which is the Lumber Saga. I can design a little bit, but then I usually need people like CR because I do work as a color key artist and a concept artist sometimes, but for the most part, design is not something that I get really inspired about. I really like brainstorming, but then you have the people who are really good at it, like CR, for example, right? And then we're going to dive in a little bit more about storyboarding aspect of it. But see, just from just the things that you just saw with all those creatures, how much thought is put into, first of all, function, but most important is like what led up to this moment that this creature exists. What's the reasoning? What's the world? What's the motivation? And honestly, that's why I invited CR over because I love his designs and it's super awesome. Is there more stuff that you can please show if there's anything?
yeah. I mean, let's see. Just because I do not want to take too much time, but if you insist,
No, dude, you
uh,
need to take much more time because everyone is already tired of talking about Lumber Saga. I don't want to talk about the bird world and the CR's world.
well, with the birds, I haven't yet designed, but I was doing interiors, and Ida was helping me out, like kind of giving me pointers. But I haven't finished with those. But what I will show is maybe like my my gator bike design that I did like a couple of months back, like 3 months back. So it was a challenge on one of the Russian servers, and the guys like Artyom was like, "Hey, you want to join?" And I already had like a bunch on my plate, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Just added extras. We artists do like put a bunch of stuff on the back burner all the time. And my inspiration for this, I don't think I have it here, but it was a guy he hunted a crocodile, and then he was it was like somewhere in Africa. He was going home because he had no space in his moped. He had the head like on the steering wheel, and the body just like formed into the bike, which is again another weird reference. And I was like, I'm going to use. I found that reference, I think, either online or in Google Map. I'm not too sure, but I was like, okay, I gotta make this. And so again, like Suzuki, like ninjas and like Gator, I got to get them. Yeah, I gotta mix them all together into these little side concepts. And I'll like whenever you do mechanical things, side concepts are the best. And like same thing with buildings, because you're not going to be thinking about three dimensionality or perspective. You're just like you want that perfect shape, which is how I approach the bird design, the bird building. So right here, I had like a bunch of iterations, and I picked the one which spoke most to me, which I believe it was this one right here. And then I did, and then I turned that into like a almost a three-quarter perspective, kind of facing towards us, so we could see more of the snout. Um, and then the final product was this. It's not too rendered. I'd like to have it more rendered, but it's kind of got everything. Maybe something that's drivable out there again. Hopefully, it's functional. Except this, I hate the way I did this exhaust. It just looks like a fourth market add-on. But yeah, that was my some of the mechanical stuff I have. Um, I also did like gun designs that were kind of inspired from what was it, Treasure Planet, because I thought it was like old-fashioned pistols, but it shoots lasers. And so I got to a paper and pen, and I was like, I got to get this old-fashioned way as well. Kind of drew them down, and then polished them up a little bit. Kind of like also gave them a VFX of like a gunshot, what it would look like. Played around with textures, some Damascus steel. Again, the more you know about your fabrics, the more intricate and unique designs you could get out of them. And like this one was more like a revolverish type of thing. Um, this one was this one was definitely a pirate's gun that has been uh, kind of like spliced with a military gun, which is like the silver part on the bottom, and make it like 10 times more powerful by like having a shot like this. Uh, so like thinking about maybe even like the shape could um, complement the shot or the shape of the gun, the shape of the shot. There you go. Got my things confused, but um, 1 second. I'm getting. Thank you for so much for the follow, guys. um,
You got your art
yeah,
station
just like
pulled up?
yeah, it's like I started getting like a bunch of like,
Good, good, good.
but yeah, just again like with the shape, it has this drum barrel, and then you just have like this swirly patterns. That's your VFX shot, and hopefully, like I always hope that people either understand what I'm doing or they don't catch the wrong, as we all hope for. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Did you have any other questions for me?
Like if you would summarize what in your mind is a good, trait for concept artists or a designer in general? Like if you could summarize what you talked about, like what is your main thing? So if you could do like 4 or 5 bullet points, where you start, where do you go, where do you bring inspiration from, and just so people when they start designing their own things, it could be characters, it could be anything. What are the bullet points that would you recommend taking? How, especially for people who are just starting out and the whole design shenanigans.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, like the primary bullet points I would have is like three of them or something like that, which is
Hmm.
you gotta get that awe factor. Like it could be cool, it could be something that drives you to do something. Again, think of a movie, a game that got you into what you're doing. So try to convey that, I'd say. By trying to convey that, I feel like you're gonna naturally start learning about function. Uh, Sometimes you could go overboard with like outlandish designs, but you want to spread the charcoal with your awe factor, and you gotta start erasing with your function factor, and then like your presentation, which is a good one because sometimes I have you know two of these, and I show it to my friends. Hey, they're like, "Hey, where's the presentation? Like, how do you want me to look at this type of thing?" Because sometimes you gotta be also a guide, right, to help people see your stuff. Because again, this is one of the reasons everyone has their own flavor and everyone is unique in that sense. Is that the way I see them, they might see it in a different light until I explain it to them. Kind of like meeting a person for the first time. You kind of look at them, you're like, you're judging them off the way they look, right? Uh, and, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but it's human traits. And then as soon as you start talking with that person, you kind of start, refining in your head what kind of a good person they are. How much, like with you, Misha, uh, you always have the kind critique where you're like, okay, this is good. Let's do this. But also you gotta, as a designer, you gotta take in like those hard right punches. They're like, but this is not what I'm looking for at all, which is a bummer. But it's great because now you know what not to do. Just like with just a bunch of failed attempts at a drawing, um, and with characters, for example, as I do characters, but I don't do too many of them. But when I do, it's always like, what are they wearing? Um, that resembles their personality. Actually, I might have a good example of that, or a normal example of that. One second. It's the Bullet 56 project I was talking to you about. Mish.
Yeah, 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 I remember.
Yeah. Let me minimize this. So like, it's this, Mayan biker character, and when I was doing it, my friend AK, he pointed out that some of the jewelry needs to have like biker themes on there. So I was like rethinking to add, kind of like engine lines. Like bike engines have these grill marks on them and they look really badass. So what if I put that instead of like the star shapes around it? So it's kind of like a four-cylinder engine looking medallion, um, and adding more like a sleeveless jacket that bikers like to wear, and then like adding some Mayan patterns on there just to drive home more of that character. Uh, and also, like, you gotta get your gold teeth into your main antagonist. Actually, everyone's an antagonist in this story, but you know, just adding extra details really helps. And here, you gotta know what your body type is for your characters. You have your thin, you have your fat thin, you have your husky, you have your muscular, you have your fat, and they're all like different. So like fat thin is like a thin body but with a beer gut. And actually, let me just do a quick example. And also like height really comes into the factor because if you have like a short guy, he's definitely gonna be more elongated sideways, right? So you have your skinny guy, then you have your fat skinny, which is a guy with a beer gut, and you have your like normal body type, like the swimmer build, you know, and then you have more of your husky, which is kind of like thick on all ends, and then you have more of your overweight character that might enjoy food a little too much. and all of them, they're gonna have a posture. For example, usually the skinny guy, he's always like designed like Shaggy. Like it's always like, you know, that posture right there. Uh, and your fat guy, because he has a belly, he's always gonna be like, you know, like a pear shape like this, because he's kind of like using his back muscles to pull himself back, and so they'll sometimes walk around kind of like pulling their pants up or whatever. Um, and yeah, because if you just do this, and your character is kind of like falling over at a constant basis, and uh, unless you have your character like dragging his hands to kind of stabilize the design, it might not work. Uh, and yeah, just think of posture, think of uh, even like, you know, genetics. What kind of genetics they might have? Because some people have wider shoulders, some people have wider hips, um, and trying to get that into your designs, and hopefully, you know, at the end, myself or you guys have a final successful design. Um, and, and oh, another thing, when combining, uh, you know, 2 to 3 references together, you always want to try to keep between 2 to 3, and you want to use the big, medium, small feature or the approach to the design. So not necessarily like shape, although it is necessary too, but it's more like how should you add, like you have your um, let me actually do a quick sketch, very quick sketch of 2 things combined. So maybe I could have this weevil or a round bug, right? Obviously, my feed is filled with bugs. Um, and
Seyyar
first
just
thing I see,
opens a giant folder with
yeah,
insects and weird stuff.
yeah. Like no, this wasn't even a folder. It's just like I opened my Pinterest and voila. Uh, so you want to go either one direction, which is um, either you have a body type of this or a body type of this, right? So let's say I'm gonna go with the easier route right now. I'm gonna go with the bird body type. So I'm doing kind of like a study of it, and here it is, the bird, right? And but the thing is, now I need to add some of the uh, roly poly. I think is what it's called. And you're like, okay, cool. And now you're gonna be like adding it onto its chest, right? And now when it needs to escape, what it does is it tucks his head all the way back, and then you have this cool, like, you know, those like the racing symbols, like when they have like a circle with the lightning. It kind of looks like that, but like now you have your wing here, and now the bird is turning into a roly poly, and then you kind of hide its head right here, and maybe that's its means of escape. You know, it's like plucking out in the field, and then it goes, "Oh no, a predator is coming!" And then here's your like large mountain, and because like it's very resistant to damage because of the shell, it kind of like boing 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 rolls away from the predator, and the predator is just like left like scratching his head like what's just happened. um, but and if you want to go the other way around, which would be a little tougher, because you know, how do you convey a bird into an insect form? Maybe what you can do, let me see what I could think of real quick.
No, don't delete it. Finish it.
No, it's
Okay.
it's just a sketch on a different layer. I almost deleted it.
Because
um,
everyone likes the roly toly bird. Everyone says it's super cool. I agree.
really.
Yeah, I love it.
uh, the Rolo bird,
Rolo
maybe
bird. Yep.
Poly bird. I think Poly bird sounds cuter. I think I like that one. Um, let's see. let me do a quick sketch of the roly poly. And now, how am I going to add stuff into here? Maybe a feature it could have is it rolls up, right? But the thing is, it has like little wingtips, and uh, if a predator kind of like manages to, I don't know, because like they flip over into this ball shape. So like, let's say a cat is just like like pushing it back and forth, uh, and let's say they manage to open him, and he's like, "Oh crap, what do I do now?" But he has these like reverse feather leg things, and what it does is he kind of like starts moving like a snake, and then like all these parts kind of like shimmy backwards into a hole. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it could actually. That's even better. Like, yeah, it could be like, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, it maybe it flies by. Uh, so flies have, I think it's like a water spit just fell out. You know, like dragonflies have two sets of wings, and one goes up, the other one goes down, type of thing. Like, and like they work in pairs. So, what if his, his this he's kind of designed like a spine in a sense. He still rolls up, but the thing is, like these wing parts, they're kind of they only pull up, right? They only pull upwards, outwards. But the thing is, it flies through the air, kind of like you know how when a dog is wet and it kind of like shakes itself dry. So it's kind of like shakes itself. So it's like it's like you know uh, all these exoskeleton parts kind of like move back and forth, and it could like fly off. Like, that could be, and it just turns into what? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it could have like one pair of wings, and it could just do that. And maybe they eat too much, so like the animals wait long for them to kind of like finish up eating, and they have this fat stomach now, kind of like a firefly, because they always have like their uh, butts hanging, you know, and it's easier it's easier for the cat creature to catch them because now they're just like instead of being like as fast as the stitches, they're just like kind of like hovering, and like the cats are just jumping and trying to catch them out of the air, kind of like trying to catch doves. Uh, Again, uh, keeping it to 2 to 3 references is really the key. And let's say if I have a third one, like a scorpion tail or like a scorpion, I would either utilize its tail or I will utilize its hands for like its little feet could have like little um, hoof thingies, kind of like to grab onto like sides of rocks or something if they're that's if I added that extra feature, then at that point it becomes a predatory animal because it has to sting something. Uh, yeah, I think.
You know, another thing, because it's really cool what you do. You basically, what I like what you did with the bird, you looked at the shape of the bird and said, hey, how can this shape fit into the bug, right? So that's why you did the front of it, right? So associative thinking, what shapes can match each other. And with a
Yeah,
centipede or with a roly doly type of insect, it's harder to combine the
yeah,
bird with that. Like the only thing that you can combine with it is like, well, bird flies, so that thing maybe also
yeah.
fly. Another thing I thought about it, maybe this thing can inflate, and then kind of deflate like a little balloon,
Hmm.
so kind of like, and then
Interesting.
just squeeze the air out of it. But yeah, another thing that guys are pointing out, Seyyar is having fun while he's designing, and a lot of people forget to have fun. Why they
I think
create
you
any
also
creature
gotta
design.
share with someone to have fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because there's been a
Sharing
many
is caring.
there's been many sessions where just me and CR would be just hanging in the voice chat, and then we'll be like, "What about this?" And CR will be start like giggling in his CR voice, like, and then like 1 hour and a half, he will have like like a creature
Yeah, like
design.
sparks going on.
Yeah. It's chasing the spark, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like sharing it with someone, always like Misha, you see it in a different fashion. Like I wouldn't have thought of it like be flying because I'm like, okay, this is like a ground animal. But
Yeah.
when you said flying, that kind of like unlocked this extra ability, like
A new level.
yeah. And we just like turned it into this like weird shingling creature that kind of like flicks itself around to fly, or it gets really fat and it just becomes like a stationary like.
Yeah. Cool,
But
cool,
yeah,
cool.
I mean,
Cool. Should
uh,
we? Man, I don't really want to end this, but we should probably dive into the dog design. You
yeah,
know.
I'm running out of things to talk about and speaking out of my ass.
No, Seyyar is lying. Honestly, if we would give him more information, he probably would have done 10 more creature designs. But Seyyar is a valuable member of our community, and he's always in the voice chat. So now you know that he's a kick-ass creature designer. And you know what? If you see him in the voice chat, do bother him. He's a super cool dude.
Yeah, I'll help as much as I can.
Yeah. So, all right, the dog design. Before we show the dog design, you need a little bit of a context. And context is me and CR we collaborated on my Lumber Saga project, and I have a little storyboard to show with sound effects as usual. And then we're gonna go through the process of me, quote unquote, hiring CR. I paid him zero money for his awesome time. I feel super guilty, but CR is doing it for the benefit of the camp. So, put some
Only
CR.
you can pay me in friendship.
Yeah. I paid him in. I see what I'm talking about. CR's giggles and laughs. That's CR's laugh. So what we're gonna do? I'm gonna show you a little storyboard. Then I'm gonna talk about what I needed, and then CR is gonna show a super cool design that he did for the dog, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about it. So movie time, everybody. Hope you can see the black screen right now, and yeah, the storyboarding presentation is in session. Right, so imagine driplets of water, tulk 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 tulk, distant walk in the something like that, distant walk in the distance, and through a giant keyhole we see a torch. It's approaching, we see the light through the torch, and then a face pops in, looks at it, goes up, looks left, looks right, and then brings his mouth through the keyhole and says, woohoo. And on another side of the keyhole goes, woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. We see some weird stuff in the shadows, but we can't really spot what it is. And then it goes, eyes popping up. The Viking, which his name is Olaf, listening to the keyhole, and he hears his own voice. Woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. He really likes his own voice, so he goes, yeah, right? Because he's a little bit narcissistic. And then he looks down. The camera pans down, and then he's standing on a dog, and the dog is kind of like, he doesn't really like it. It goes down, and then he looks up. The camera pans up a giant gate in which the keyhole is, and then camera pans out, and we look into the shadows. And out of the shadows, weird goo-like thing drops down, and then really slowly, almost in slow motion, because I didn't do any timings, a droplet comes down. And then right on the Viking's face into his eye, and then he goes, oh? He drops down, past the dog, looks at the dog, the dog, he gets tired of screaming. I think he's kind of like acid starts dropping down from the ceiling. He squints his eyes. What the hell is happening? Raises his torch, and then they get up, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" Kind of looks with his still under the toxic poison in his eyes. They're still red and watering. He looks up, and then with his very drowsy and still poisoned eyes, tries to make whatever is in the shadows. He opens them, and then we zoom into the shadows, and then boom, boom. 2 chainsaws get out of the shadows, and a giant robot spider goes, zing, 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 zing. You know, the teeth start spinning. And he still has no idea what's going on. And he goes, whoa. And then music pops in. He starts running. He jumps. And then giant legs go dish, dish, dish. Ka-ching. The dog starts roaring. The Viking goes, it's on. And then with metal music, a giant creature rises from the smoke and then goes, with electric parts and chainsaws go, vroom, vroom, vroom. It drops down, puts out flaming fire throws, fire envelops everywhere. We have 2D looking fire going left, right, around the Viking. And then he looks back, there's nowhere to go. The camera punches in on the face. Music intensifies. He turns around and fire reflects in Olaf's eyes. Fire reflects in Spider's eyes. Fire reflects in the dog's eyes. It's a cowboy standoff. And then the Viking's arms starts cracking because he's preparing. His knuckles cracking. The spider goes vroom, vroom, the scene intensifies. The dog starts growling, saliva drooling. And then we have one last shot of the Viking eyes with the red flame reflecting. And then he goes, punches his chest. It says, come on! And then the spider goes, and then starts galloping towards. The Viking takes the dog. The dog transforms into a ray gun and starts doing sci-fi noises. And then starts almost blasting. We have a slow motion shot of a spider approaching with the chainsaws in slow motion. And then the Viking smiles, and then the dog goes, and then the Viking says, boom, bah! We get a mountain, and a laser beam goes through the mountain, and a shockwave through the entire forest at night. The spider drops. Olaf emerges victorious, spits on the Viking, or spits on the spider in revenge for his eyes. You know, brushes off the saliva off his face, and then puts his nose back in place because it was broken. Takes the key out of the spider, puts it in the keyhole, and then the camera pans through the keyhole into another side where there's a bunch of spider eggs, and then, you know, alien type of style goes crack, 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 and then it cuts to black. Ta-da! That's the that's the storyboard. Yeah, so one shot that I replaced is going to be when they're going to be after standing and the spider is all blown up. They're going to be standing like this, you know, and the dog kind of goes, Puh! And then Olaf, for the care of the dog, covers it with his cape while all the blood and guts are pouring down, and then we cut to the regular ending of the animation short. Yeah, this is still in process, but if you like this, this is part of my Lumber Saga animation shorts that I'm trying to create this project. Actually, with some of you guys in the Discord channel, we have a small team that contribute to all of this, and Seyyar is part of that team. Yeah, so if anyone wants to contribute and actually work on the project and help out, more than welcome. So, what we in Seyyar did, we needed to have a dog design, right? For the moment where when Olaf, that's the name of the Viking, when Olaf basically charges, when he takes the dog, you know, and then the dog starts transforming into a big ray gun here, right? He takes the dog and then starts glowing and then transforms into a ray gun. I have no idea how that looked. Usually, this project would be done with a storyboard artist, with a character design artist, but I am the director, the storyboard artist, and the script writer. But actually David Cunningham, the guy who did a lecture on Hero's Journey, also participates in the project as a script writer. So, because I love the project a lot and I love Seyyar, he's an awesome human being, I thought, why not combine two things that I love into one? So Seyyar took over and he designed the dog. And right now we're gonna talk about what went into the design of the dog, how we went back and forth, how we discussed it. Because Seyyar saw the animatic multiple times, and we were just thinking about transformations to the animation and so on, so on, so on. So Seyyar, please walk us through.
Yeah, bro, the animatic though. When I saw it, you were still drawing on it, bro. Like it was just right before like he transformed. And so when you were describing to me and you were telling me all this extra stuff that you did afterwards, I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, did I see that? That's why I realized you just like, you did so much more work on it.
Oh yeah, it's still not finished though.
And,
It's still in progress.
but still, bro, that was kick ass. Like again, I did not expect to. You have so much in there. That was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was actually seeing it with you guys the first time, like the other half of it.
Oh.
Yeah. So, um, when I approached this design, the key things were like, I gotta get Olaf, and I gotta get it into a cartoon version. So
Gruel.
I
His
had
name
to
is Gruel.
find-
The dog's name is
Oh,
Gruel.
sorry.
That's okay.
Keep on mixing. It's like Frankenstein thing.
Yep. Olaf is the Viking. Gruel is the Inspector Gadget dog.
All right. So Gruel the Drool, he is a cartoonish dog. So I had to find a template, right? Uh, this little dog breakdown, because this actually helped me quite a bit down here. Is now when I'm looking at it to Mishra's work, now I could kind of like sculpt his design onto a form like this in animation form. And what I did was I literally got a piece of paper and pen and just started like mayheming. And this is what I'm talking about when I went overboard and Misha was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's let's take it back a bit. Let's make the first animation first." Uh, and some of the ideas were like kind of like a weapon coming out of his mouth. And then I know you had an idea of turning the dog into two M16s, like
No, that was your idea. That was the idea, and you're gonna show it. You're gonna show it in the design iterations. What we thought about.
Yeah,
I
because
was-
I remember like
yeah.
you were like maybe divide it in half.
Yeah.
It started out very complex in the beginning because like it's like like all these like parts kind of like opening up, and Mishra mercifully was like, think of the animators, man. Think of the
Yeah.
animators.
Yeah. It can be too
So I had to
complex for
kinda-
the animation team.
Yeah, I had to like pull that back, but it was like I had like a bunch of ideas of like different types of weapons he could turn into. Like there's like Go Fetch, who would be like he turns into a surprise a roly poly with spikes and just like mows down miniature enemies like the baby spiders, I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah.
And kind of like Arnold type minigun holder, and like his tail kind of like wraps around his shoulder. He was just like
Yeah.
and, like the bottom of like the soft spot of his paw would be like the on and off
button, the trigger.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I really like that design. But the thing is, the only reason why I didn't want the dog to be upside down, because I wanted the gun to also still read as a dog, and the dog have facial expressions that it shoots. And the thing is, if you turn things upside down, even though it's a cool design aspect, that's the thing about designing. Sometimes you can have a really good design, but then it takes away from something, either from a story or something else. What are you giggling about?
There's always a sacrifice.
Yeah, there's also sacrifice has to be made. And then there's like functionality and then actual like technical things. Oh yeah, that's when the dog turns into two AR-16s, and then he just basically used each side of a dog as a gun. Yeah. That was a super cool idea. Yep, exactly. And then goes Rambo style. But we also had to ditch this idea because we might just use it for later on. I also like the vampire steaks that you would feed into the dog that you did. You
like put breaks off a branch.
Sticks in the dog and then shoots out like stacks of those vampire hunting things. Maybe if they're gonna be battling vampires, we can do that. But that was
Like
also super cool.
electric vampires. Yeah.
Electric, yeah, 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 yeah. If no one knows what Lumber Saga is, it's basically what if Viking mythology was, or pantheon was explained by aliens crashing into a Viking world. So that's the premise of the of the show. And right now we're trying to create a few animation shorts. Yeah, just for more context for people. Yeah, then you had like
So
much more designs, I think.
yeah, my cheeks hurt from like smiling so much because like it's so exciting to like go over this
Yeah,
again with you and then
yeah,
like find new things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm smiling
um,
too. My face also hurts.
Another one we had was like I think this was like when we got a little closer was like
Yeah.
the shotgun approach.
Yep.
Uh, and let's see, and actually before this stage, sorry I forgot a stage, which is the getting the line art version of Olaf. I mean the Drool.
Yeah.
Drool, my bad. Uh, and I know you said like 2 and 4 were the best, or something like that.
I think I did
One.
2 and 4. I think yeah, I did 2 and 4 because other ones. I like the bulky shape of the front, which was a ball. In the
Yeah.
4, I think I like the face. Like another thing, guys, if you would pan out to the concepts that I did, like the only thing that I gave Seyyar is my crappy designs of the dog, and the thing is, my dog design always changed from painting to painting because I don't usually design things. I usually start painting them, and then the design evolves for me. But now was the stage when like I need to finalize the design, and CR came to the rescue. It might change a little bit here and there. Mainly, it's probably going to be simplified even more because, for example,
Because that was
yeah,
yeah.
because like for example, CR is comfortable to sketch in this style, for example, right? So me as an art director, and sometimes you get art directors like this. For me, this is enough to give, let's say, to a more 2D orientated character designer and say, hey, here's what CR did, because I don't want to, and this is me speaking from an art director perspective, I don't want to, put constraints on CR's process by a style if I understand how it can translate into 2D animation. So I would rather him get it 90% or 85% or 70%, but have the function and design there, and then push that extra 30% with another character designer or 2D animator, versus saying, no, it has to be exactly this style. Because, and again, some art directors will need exactly the finalized style, but not like I work with Borja, he was a speaker. I work with Joe Spatterford, who was also the speaker. They're the art directors who can be like, oh yeah, I can work with that. So it usually comes from art director to art director. But with this, yeah, I chose number 1 and number 4. Number 4 was the design, the shape of the mouth, and then number 2, it was just I like the bulky front of the dog, because we had to understand that we need to fit all this technology into the dog, and I didn't want the dog to be flimsy. I want to be like a good companion for Olaf. Also, in the animatic and the storyboard, you have to understand Olaf doesn't have a weapon with him, and everyone's going to be like, why the hell does he go into a cave with no sword or an axe? Now you know. He has a dog that transforms into a ray gun.
He has a man's best friend with him.
Yep.
And when I was doing these, I also wanted to think about the under armor,
Yeah.
The exoskeleton, because again, you have your skin or like the exterior that's not gonna stretch out into like a balloon. It's more like there are segments under the skin, so it's just gonna be like kind of like open up, and so that's why I need to get, at least for myself, a visual what the skeleton looks like, and that's always really good for like designing anything, is how it functions from within. Obviously, if it's like an exoskeleton based thing, then you don't really need an internal skeleton, but you do need to know what that emptiness is going to contain. Uh, after we got like the final dog design, I kind of like worked with weapons. And in the beginning, it was like, this is literally my thought. You guys remember the mask where he just like, say hello to my little friend?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So that's what I was like imagining at first before, Misha was like, yo, dial it back.
Yeah. No, I think what we did is like the gun wasn't looking threatening enough. It didn't look like it didn't look badass, and we're like, I think the note was make it badass, and then CR gave me
Yeah.
this, and I was like, whoa, 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 too much, dude, too badass, too badass. But who knows? Again, we still have those things, and then in the background, like the dog basically expands, and those are kind of like shotgun shells, you know, and those little kind of spider-looking things, right? We had an idea to animate them so they go up and down, and they shoot many things. We still might go back to some of the things. So yeah, you know, save your previous iterations, guys, when you're designing anything, because it might come in handy later on.
Looking at this, I was like, what if, like, you know, season in the season finale, like Olaf gets like another or Drool gets another power up,
Yep,
where
yep,
he turns into like, you know, the golf, the golf bag. Like,
yep,
there's all these like 9 irons and stuff.
yep,
So he just has like a bunch of weapons that he produces, and Olaf could be like, you know,
yep,
like
yep,
throws
yep.
it back.
That's the
Yeah,
idea. Like the show is gonna be really, really, really badass. It's gonna be just Vikings fighting weird robot creatures and have weird alien technology in all of the unexpected places.
yeah, exactly. Like something looks normal, it's not normal type of thing.
Nope, nope.
And then I kind of like worked on like how the mouth would open up, and you know, had like a couple of iterations, arrows, like how it's gonna go, and let's see, and there you go. So again, I had to know what's inside the dog. So we got to this stage by a key word or a key phrase by Misha was look at Lilo and Stitch designs.
Yep.
You know, just reworking a bunch of things in my head. And I'm like, okay, okay, now I know the, you know, the spices to go for, because now I'm not just like making up spices. There's a
Yep.
certain recipe Misha wants me to follow.
Yep.
And the ship designs was one of the things Misha suggested, and I kind of tried to do my best and kind of utilize it into my designs where it doesn't look like Lilo and Stitch too much, but
Yep.
it's still,
But it still has the same design language as Lilo and Stitch, right? So if you guys
yeah,
don't know, Lilo and Stitch has a lot of good alien kind of like hard surface designs, and we try to keep it as an inspiration. So anytime you are designing anything, just see what's done before you, and then have your own twist on it. Um, yeah.
yeah. Well, again, and then like I said, you know how the the fur is actually kind of like a covering of sorts. It's not malleable itself. So it kind of like opens up like those, you know, mm, like sci-fi gates type of thing, kind of like teeth in a way. But the great thing is it's not boring, just like opens up like that. But it's not going to be like complex where it just like, you know, for the animator. But the shape could at least like show where the seams are. Uh, and yeah, and I thought it would be funny if his like exterior would kind of like, especially towards his head right here, kind of like, you know, when you're petting a dog and the skin is just like wrinkling towards its head or something, like those wrinkly dogs. And so what if it just like, you know, like did this to its skin, so he's like, but you know, that gives an extra comedy factor in there, and the mouth kind of opens up to a point where like Drool could still like look at Olaf and like, you know, like, you know, just like act like a dog, 'cause to him maybe like it's not as serious or something. um and and then I worked on, so this was like the final, I guess, semi-final product, where kind of like sketch from like a turnaround,
Yep.
and then like how Olaf would hold it, you know, like you see him kind of looking back happy at
Yep.
Olaf,
I love
and
that
like
he's
his
holding his ears as a handle. That's
yeah,
priceless.
and, and it like stretches out his like
His
eyelids,
eyes.
so it's just like
Yeah.
even funny.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, like the tongue is always out, like happy go lucky. Did a couple of iterations of like laser types, and the great thing is like you could just change colors depending on maybe like the intensity of the scene. Like
Hmm.
let's say this is like the blue is your soft shots, kind of like bird shot, and then red is like your buck shot, which is like, you know, fatal
Yeah.
blow shot. And yeah, like had so much fun with this that I really wanted to thank Misha for like all the fun and like support he has shown me. And I did like a keyframe to be like,
Oh
"Hey
yeah,
man, we're getting there. We're
yeah.
getting there." So they're like running into a cave, like guns blasting, and the kids
The little
like
kid. Let's
gonna get
go,
something.
father.
So they're just like just
Yeah,
screaming, but he'll like if Olaf is down, he'll just turn around and run off or something. uh, yeah, just wanted to do something special for me, and
see,
I hope this made you happy, bro.
Seyyar called me yesterday in the evening. I was kind of like bummed out, and I was playing Dota again, and then a losing streak, and I deleted all of the games at the end of the day. But then Seyyar's like, "Hey, dude, let me show you something," and that cheered me up a
Yeah,
lot.
I couldn't hold it. I had to show you.
Yeah, it's just super cool. But see again, like for example, my style is not CR style, but even CR style, like I'm looking at this and I can base a whole keyframe on this because CR not only designed the dog, but he also designed the keyframe together. And for example, this is enough information for me to, for example, hire another artist who does it in the style that I want, and then for example, repaint this just another style. But all the visual information is already there, right? And it's super epic and super awesome. Um, yeah, so that's the Lumber Saga project. That's CR doing stuff for it. I don't think. Do we have anything else to talk about? Unless we only had
Um,
fun. We only had fun. It was pretty epic. My feedback was kind
yeah,
of like, yeah, super cool. Because the thing is, I was giggling at every iteration of this thing, but then I always had to think about, well, animators later on for the production and what's going on. And that's the cool thing about CR, and you guys probably should be too. It's your imagination should be like all over the place and super awesome creative to the point that you have to be stopped a little bit and be
yeah,
and you have to like, because my thing with CR was like, dude, this is all very epic and awesome, but dial down a little. And that's my problem when I do storyboards too. That's why I have other friends who say, dude, no, 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 no. What's the simple statement, right? But it's okay to have wild imagination with like designer like CR, because later on you have so many cool ideas in your back burner, right? Because I'm pretty sure me and you we're gonna return back to the dog design if, let's say, in the next episode there's a
yeah,
next encounter, we can just come up with crazy stuff that the dog can do or cannot do, and we still don't know. I think that's the beauty of concept design or design in general, is that you can surprise yourself. And I think that's the thing that I love about CR. It's that like we would be sitting in a voice chat and then it was like, oh, that's an epic idea, and then we'll start giggling and laughing. Even though if nothing comes out of it, and sometimes something comes out of it, right? Um, yeah. Do you have any final words, CR, to everybody? Like,
uh,
your inspirational speech for the younger generation who wants to do what you're doing.
you know, it's so funny again. You asked that because yesterday I was talking to Ricardo, aka Nightblade, uh, and he kind of stumbled on his words. And I asked him if it was okay, if I mentioned him. He said yeah, and he was gonna say turtle, but he said torture turtle, and I was just like, because he was talking. I think he was talking about like uh, animals, or we were talking about animals, and then when he said torture turtle, we just started laughing because I'm like, this is what I imagine, like a Mata Mata turtle that has an infinite like face, and like it's just like very unsettling if he's doing something evil. And he kind of pointed out that it's like the artist's self critic. So he's like he tortures you with like when you're in that bad spot of like maybe your post did not do well or whatever, he comes and gets you and he sticks you into his shell, and then like it's just like from the exterior it's just like an empty shell, but inside it's like naked Uguay, just like torturing you, and you're like on this easel or whatever, just like, no, I will be an artist. And then there's a gramophone that's repeating, "You're gonna fail, you're gonna fail," but you can't give in. You gotta escape, because otherwise you become one of these skeletons. And yeah, no failing in this Discord.
Yeah, guys, Valhalla. Valhalla. We're here to bring everybody up, and then if someone is struggling, we always have a nice community to bring you up. So don't fall prey to the turtle. Yeah,
But you see
yeah,
that?
I know, I know.
Torture turtle.
Torture,
Torture turtle.
torture turtle. Yeah. If you're gonna doubt yourself, just imagine yourself in the shell of a torture turtle, and you gotta escape.
Hey, you don't want to see a naked Oogway just walking around.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think that hopefully that's some kind of motivating.
Yeah, I like that. It's super motivating, man. Yeah, just don't end up in a torture turtle shell. And if you want to
Naked
avoid
turtle.
naked Uguay, yeah, you're gonna succeed, guys. Cool. All right. So final words. Thank you, CR, for coming. This was amazing. I think everyone loved it. Everyone was chanting your name in the voice chat. Seyyar, Seyyar. Can we get some CRs in the chat? Yeah, please guys join on a Q&A session with CR after this, because who wanna miss some quality time with CR and bombard him with their questions.
I'm there always.
Yeah, just a recap from me, from what I really like about CR is that, you know, you can see people with a fire inside that do have fun when they do what they love, you know. And if there's one thing you can get from this is, you know, get some inspiration and, you know, have the same fire as CR has. Giggle at your own concepts, giggle at your own designs, you know, and just be like CR. You know, it's so easy. Just be
Get
CR.
out there to the Pinterest land.
Yeah,
Find
yeah,
yourself a real friend.
yeah. All right, people. As my father says, everything good comes in small portions. And this was CR, one and only. Probably not the only and the last time that he's going to come on this YouTube channel and stuff like that. Please follow his work. ArtStation is linked in the description. And join us for the Q&A session afterwards. Keep the fire inside and stay hydrated. Skål, everybody. You're the real Vikings. Cheers. Say goodbye, CR.
Au revoir.
Hiya.